so we are a familial winery, a small team, just 4 people. I work with my parents and my wife, and we have 2 part-time employees who help us in the vine. So it's really a small team. We work on 12 hectares total, and so all our still wines produced are estates. And we also now get extra grape only from family and a few friends for the production of Cremant. Because yeah, we are happy. They are pretty successful. We distribute our wines and mainly our Cremant in 20 countries now. And in some countries with much success, in the US, in Italy. So where they are ranked, we are ranked number 2 exporter, Cremant exporter in Italy, and number 3 in the US.
Yeah, so you're about 11th generation in the family. And so you took over in 2013. And I'm just wondering, have you seen any changes in terms of how you approach the wine stylistically, or have you seen any changes in the modern palate since you taken over?
We have been producing grape and wine in the family for over 300 years. But I think we have seen more changes the past 40 years than the place has seen in 300 years. It's crazy how it evolved. When my father took over, it was still a complete farm here. So there were animals in the back. They also grew wheat, and so he decided to focus into the wine business, and then to convert the whole farm just into a winery. And so this is very recent. He started working exports in early 2000s. And then it just developed. So we always feel it was very long and without any change for many, many years, decades, but the changes are very recent. So when I came back 10 years ago, I wanted to pursue what he started and keep growing exports.
So that's interesting because I guess the business of winemaking started in your 11th generation, 17th century. But what you're saying is that fairly recently, it was. Did you start off? How was the history at the beginning? Was it more like you were growers?
My great-grandfather used to deliver the wine in small tanks, small barrels, to restaurants. That's what he did around the World War before and right after. So for us, it started in 1949, the first bottles. And then that was my great-grandfather, so 4 generations ago, where they started to sell the wine in bottles. And so it took time, but they grew pretty quickly until the 70s, and then had some familial issues with my grandfather, who passed away tragically, and so it took a few years to recover and start a new dynamic when my father was old enough to take over. And so my father took over in 84 when he was just 18. So he had to skip almost 1 generation and start again and give a new imprint, a new dynamic.
Mm. And so your production, you have like over 75% of your wines is export. And I know a lot of Alsace producers are struggling to produce. What's your success and how have you been able to be so successful exporting your wine?
First, what is not common for us is that now we produce more Cremant than still wine, and that's pretty unique. And we see on the export markets where we have the demand is now on the Cremant. That's what's really developed the past few years. We also produce a Cremant Rosé, which is not common, and that has been very successful for 15 years. That even surprised us. You can trust the product, a very regular consistency. That was well. And so that helped us to find new opportunities and people who believe in us, and to find new markets that are growing.
Yes, the Cremant I think is a very good product. I mean, I don't know why people don't like it better. It's a great value substitute to champagne. It's made in the same way, And rosé, for some reason, I think people really like rosé champagnes. Gets higher value, so I think you've done an excellent job with that. You're a very successful producer. So what's next? What's the next 5 or 10 years hold for your winery?
First, we're still a familial winery, so the growth, we can have some growth, but we have to be careful. We cannot double anything, so we have to move step by step. But the idea in the future, so we are about to build a new cellar, so that will double the capacity of storage of our Cremant. That will be great for us to increase a bit the production, but mostly to increase the aging time of our Cremant. And so the idea is to keep growing and trying to optimize the quality, to have them at the best time, best disgorgement, without any pressure of space or of temperature, of anything, to have the best conditions to work in. And that will help us to develop some other cuvées, special cuvées. Like we started with a Cremant Platine, that's the name of our cuvée, that has 4 years aging. So with this new capacity of storage, we'll be able to develop this kind of cuvée. So the idea of, for example, of our Platine cuvée is a blend of Pinot Blanc and Riesling. We'll probably add some Chardonnay in the future. We have young vines of Chardonnay. And the idea is to make a complete natural fermentation and to block the fermentation. And so that the second fermentation in the bottle starts only with natural sugar. Then we target at least 4 years on the lease. We'll see if we can do even more, but at least 4 years. And disgorgement without any adjunction of sugar, no dosage. So the idea is to produce the wine without any other sugar than the one from the grape.
That's a very exciting product, I think, because people will like that little bit of residual sweetness. Making it from Riesling, that would be kind of nice entry point in the market. Because you guys don't just make great Cremant, you make also some very, very serious Rieslings. And so I guess you have, I think something that's very special.
Here we have a parcel of Gdańsk. Our terroir here, the Grand Cru, is classified for 30 years. And we have one parcel of Riesling, one parcel of Gewürztraminer. So it's pretty unique because it's the only terroir of Gdańsk we have in all Alsace. It brings a very interesting minerality to the wine, more focused on the fruit when they're young. So in the digitasting box, we chose to show the same parcel on 2 different vintages just to see the evolution. So we have the 19 vintage, which is very focused on the fruits, and you can see on the older one the minerality that comes through.
Alsace wines, the surprise that people have is that we come from BC here in Canada. Our Rieslings are sweet, and when people drink these wines and see how serious they are, how food friendly they are, they're kind of not, they're on the off-dry style. It's very surprising, and ageability is tremendous on these wines. I haven't had the wine yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. But it's going to be a little bit young. And so what's the aging potential for these type of Grand Cru, especially from your Praeletenberg vineyard?
On the Riesling, so it will always depend on the vintage. But vintage, the one I showed you, the one you're going to taste, the 2014, with a great acidity. It's almost 9 years old. It still feels very young. You can drink it from 12 to 15 years without any issue. Of course, this doesn't work with the warmest vintages when we get a lack of acidity. Even if we are very careful on harvesting at the right time and make sure we go and pick up the grape before the acids decrease too much, they just don't have the same ability to age. So sometimes around 10 years is the maximum just to enjoy the freshness, the balance. And then it will move to something more aromatic or nuts of nuts. So we had a very nice acidity in 16, for example, 16, 21, with good freshness, more usual vintage that we used to have in the past. We like this style because we maintain some nice freshness. We focus on making good gastronomic wine. That's what we like. And then we also have more and more warmer vintage, dry summer. So it's very challenging for us to maintain again these acidities. So it's just sometimes different balance we have to find. Like the Gewürztraminer you have is on 2020 vintage, which was very rich, so very aromatic, very expressive. It's a big body. We were not used to produce this kind of wine in the past. Same for the Pinot Noir, dark Pinot Noir with jammy fruits, pretty rich, pretty aromatic. So we got this in 22.
Let's talk also about your Pinot Noir. You also make some great Pinot Noir wines. And I'm always interested because Alsace, I think it's a great opportunity. I don't think people are aware as much that the Alsace producers produce Pinot Noir, and it gets overshadowed by Burgundy. So what do you think, we can do to kind of promote that? And stylistically, I think Alsace Pinot is a little bit different than Burgundy. So kind of how would you approach it to understand that?
Yeah, the Pinot Noir really develops in Alsace. That's also because the climate change, and so now we have ripe Pinot Noir with that are seen as really a red wine. But we have always seen it as work with this as an Alsatian style Pinot. So we don't use any oak. We really focus on the fruits. We still have pretty short maceration of 7 days approximately, and the idea is really to reveal the fruits. Most of the years, again, it's rather aromas of the raspberries with nice acidity and freshness. Some other years, the warmest one, 20 and 22, we get a huge extraction of color. A lot of power to color and to bring more dark cherries, even plum.
See you in BC. I mean, BC, we don't get as much Alsace wine, but it's a tremendous market for Alsace because of the Asian cuisine here. And hopefully we're going to get to see you here in the market, particularly, especially with Cremant and also with
I hope as well. We have wines here in Ontario for many years. We have the wines on the other side of the border in Washington State. We have the wines in Manitoba also, but not yet in British Columbia or Alberta. So that's one of our goals, to find the right partner to work on that market. We have some, the Gewürztraminer, for example, got 97 points at decanter. So hopefully you'll get the wine soon.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your time, Nicolas. I really enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to tasting these wines. And
thank you.
I hope that BC wine consumers will get a chance to taste it. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much.